Life has a funny way of showing you what really matters. For Rebecca, that lesson came on the worst day of her life. She'd spent 8 years trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law, 8 years of attending fancy dinners where she never quite knew which fork to use, 8 years of smiling through criticism about how she dressed, how she decorated her home, how she raised her daughter. Her husband's family had money, old money, the kind that came with expectations and judgment. When Michael died in that car accident, Rebecca thought her world had ended, and in many ways it had, but not in the way she expected. The funeral was held at an expensive venue with catered food and flowers that cost more than her monthly grocery bill. People she barely knew offered condolences that felt rehearsed. Through it all, she held her 6-year-old daughter Lily close, both of them trying to understand a world that no longer made sense. Michael's mother, Patricia, barely looked at her during the service. His brother gave a speech about family and legacy, but Rebecca noticed he never once mentioned her name. She told herself they were grieving, that they'd all heal together. That family meant something, especially now. She was wrong. 2 weeks after the funeral, Patricia came to the house, not to comfort her, not to check on Lily. She came with papers and a lawyer. The house, Rebecca learned, wasn't actually theirs. It was held in a family trust. Michael had always handled the finances, and Rebecca had never questioned it. Why would she? They were married. They were building a life together. "You'll need to make arrangements," Patricia said, her voice cold as winter. 60 days should be sufficient. Rebecca stared at her, not understanding. Arrangements for what? To relocate. This property needs to return to the family. The words hit like physical blows. This is Lily's home. This is where she remembers her father. Patricia's expression didn't soften. Michael made certain choices. Perhaps he should have been more practical. Regardless, the trust is clear. That's when Rebecca understood. Without Michael, she wasn't family anymore. She was just an inconvenience to be dealt with. The lawyer handed her a folder. Inside were documents about Michael's life insurance. Most of it went to the family trust. There was a small payout for her, barely enough to cover a few months of expenses. The investments she thought they had? Family accounts she couldn't access. The car? Leased through the family business, even the credit cards were being canceled. But what about Lily? Rebecca's voice shook. She's your granddaughter. Patricia stood, smoothing her expensive skirt. Lily will always be a Garrison. You, however, are not. Perhaps you should have thought about your future more carefully. After they left, Rebecca sat in the living room for hours. Lily was at school. The house felt enormous and empty. She looked around at the furniture she'd picked out, the photos on the walls, the little pencil marks in the kitchen doorway tracking Lily's height, all of it temporary, none of it really hers. She pulled out her phone and started looking at her bank account. The number was smaller than she remembered. Michael had always handled everything. She'd trusted him completely. Now she realized that trust had left her completely unprepared. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Rebecca started applying for jobs, but her resume was a nightmare. 8 years as a stay-at-home mom. Before that, an English degree and a few years working retail. No one was impressed. She took what she could get. A waitressing job at a diner, working lunch shifts, then a cleaning job at an office building working nights. Between the 2 jobs, she barely saw Lily. Her daughter stayed with a neighbor after school, doing homework at someone else's kitchen table, eating dinner that Rebecca hadn't cooked. Lily started having nightmares. Her grades dropped. The teacher called about behavior problems. "She's acting out," the teacher said gently. "I know you're going through a difficult time, but Lily needs stability." Rebecca wanted to scream. Stability? She was working 16-hour days just to keep them fed. The 60 days came and went. They moved to a small apartment in a worse part of town. 1 bedroom, thin walls, neighbors who fought at 2 in the morning. But it was what she could afford. She called Patricia once, swallowing her pride, asking if there was any family support available.
Any help with Lily's expenses? The call went to voicemail. It was never returned. Then Lily got sick. A bad fever that lasted 3 days. Rebecca missed shifts at both jobs. The diner manager was understanding, but understanding doesn't pay bills.
The cleaning company was less forgiving. They had other people who wanted her hours. More reliable people. When the eviction notice came, Rebecca wasn't even surprised anymore. She'd been late on rent twice. The landlord had his own problems. She couldn't blame him. She packed what they could fit in her car. Most of their belongings went to a donation center. Lily cried over leaving her toys behind, the stuffed animals she'd had since she was a baby. Rebecca held her and promised it would be okay. But she didn't know if that was true anymore. They spent the first night in the car in a grocery store parking lot. Rebecca watched Lily sleep in the back seat, covered with their winter coats, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong so fast. She'd done everything right, hadn't she? Been a good wife, a good mother, trusted the wrong people maybe. But when had trust become a mistake? The next morning, she counted her money. $43. The car had a quarter tank of gas. She drove to a discount store and bought bread, peanut butter, and a gallon of water. In the parking lot, she made sandwiches while Lily asked when they were going home. Soon, baby, Rebecca lied. We're just on an adventure right now. That's when everything changed, but she didn't know it yet. She was just a woman who'd lost everything, sitting in a parking lot, trying to figure out how to survive one more day. The Garrisons had taken her home, her security, her future. They'd left her with nothing but her daughter and a car that needed an oil change. But sometimes nothing is exactly what you need to start over. You just don't realize it until you're forced to try. 3 days of living in a car teaches you things, like how the earliest risers at gas stations are truck drivers and nurses getting off night shifts, how grocery store parking lots are safer than empty side streets, how your daughter can sleep through almost anything when she's exhausted enough, but wakes up asking questions you don't have answers for. Rebecca drove without a destination. She had enough gas to get maybe 100 miles west, away from the city where everyone knew her story, away from the pitying looks and the whispered gossip. She told Lily they were going on a road trip to see new places. Lily, only 6 years old, believed her because children believe their mothers, even when their mothers are lying. They stopped at rest areas to use the bathroom. Rebecca washed them both in sinks, trying to make it seem normal, like an adventure. She rationed the food. Peanut butter sandwiches twice a day, water from drinking fountains. She told herself it was temporary, just until she figured something out. But figuring something out required money she didn't have, references she couldn't provide, and an address that didn't exist. Every path forward seemed blocked. On the 4th day, they ended up in Fredericksburg, a small town she'd never been to before. It looked peaceful. Historic buildings. Tourist shops. The kind of place where people probably had normal problems, not the kind where you sleep in your car. They pulled into a gas station. Rebecca checked her wallet again, hoping money would magically appear. It didn't. She had $17 left. She put $10 of gas in the tank. That left $7. She could buy dinner or breakfast tomorrow. Not both. Lily tugged at her sleeve. Mom, I'm hungry. I know, sweetie. Let's go inside and get something. The gas station had a small convenience store. Rebecca walked the aisles doing math in her head. A can of soup was $3, but they had no way to heat it. Crackers were $2. Bananas were cheap. She grabbed a bunch and a small bag of chips, something to make Lily smile. At the counter, she handed over her debit card. The machine beeped, declined. Rebecca's stomach dropped. She tried again. Declined again. She'd forgotten about the automatic payment for her car insurance. It had pulled from her account that morning. I'm sorry, she said to the tired-looking cashier. Let me try another card. But the credit cards were canceled. She knew that. She was stalling, her face burning with shame. Behind her, someone sighed impatiently. Lily stood close, sensing something was wrong. Maybe just the bananas, Rebecca said quietly, her voice shaking. That's when a hand reached past her, placing a $20 bill on the counter. I've got it, Rebecca turned. The woman standing behind her looked like she'd walked out of an old Western movie, late 50s, maybe early 60s, with sun-weathered skin and gray hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore faded jeans, scuffed boots, and a denim shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Her hands were rough and calloused. Everything about her said she worked outdoors with her hands in the sun. I can't accept that, Rebecca said automatically. The woman shrugged. You're not accepting anything. I'm buying groceries. What you do with them is your business. The cashier rang everything up. The woman added a couple of bottles of water and a pack of beef jerky without asking. She paid cash, took no change, and walked toward the door. Rebecca grabbed the bag and followed her outside, Lily trailing behind. Wait, Rebecca called. Thank you, really, I'll pay you back. The woman stopped next to an old pickup truck, beat up but well maintained. She studied Rebecca with sharp blue eyes that seemed to see everything. The wrinkled clothes, the exhaustion, the fear trying to hide behind pride. You living in that car? She asked bluntly. Rebecca's first instinct was to lie. But what was the point? Temporarily. Just until I figure things out. How long has temporarily been? 4 days. The woman nodded like this confirmed something. There's a diner 2 blocks down. Called the Blue Bonnet. You eaten a hot meal recently? We're fine, really. You've already done more than enough. That wasn't a yes or no question. Rebecca felt tears threatening. She was so tired. Tired of pretending, tired of holding everything together. Tired of being strong for Lily when she felt like she was breaking apart. No, she admitted quietly. Not in a while. Then come on. My truck follows yours. 2 blocks, turn right. You'll see it. 20 minutes later, they sat in a corner booth of the Blue Bonnet Diner. The woman, who'd introduced herself as Catherine but said everyone called her Kate, ordered them both the special: meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, and cornbread. Lily's eyes went wide when the plate arrived. She ate like she hadn't seen food in weeks, which wasn't far from the truth. Kate drank coffee and watched them eat. She didn't ask questions at first, just let them eat in peace. Rebecca couldn't remember when food had tasted this good. Or maybe it was just that she hadn't realized how hungry she really was. After Lily had finished and started coloring on the Paper Kids menu with crayons the waitress brought, Kate finally spoke. So what's your story? Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was that Kate was a stranger who'd never know her as anything except this broken version. Or maybe Rebecca just couldn't carry it alone anymore. Whatever the reason, she started talking. She told Kate about Michael dying, about his family cutting her off, about losing the house, the jobs, the apartment, about the car becoming their home. She told her about Lily's nightmares, about feeling like a failure, about not knowing what came next. She told a complete stranger things she'd never told anyone because there was no one left to tell. Kate listened without interrupting. When Rebecca finally stopped talking, her coffee was cold and Lily had fallen asleep in the booth, her head on Rebecca's lap. That's rough, Kate said finally. Your in-laws sound like real pieces of work. Rebecca laughed, surprised at herself. That's one way to put it. Where were you planning to go? After Fredericksburg? I don't know. Somewhere cheaper than the city. Somewhere I could find work. Kate was quiet for a moment, stirring her cold coffee like she was thinking. Then she looked up. I run a cattle ranch about 2 hours west of here. Been doing it alone since my husband died 3 years ago. It's hard work, long days. Not glamorous. But there's a small house on the property. Used to be for ranch hands. Been empty for a year. Rebecca stared at her. I don't understand. I need help. You need a place. Seems straightforward to me. I don't know anything about ranching. Didn't expect you would. But you can learn. You got hands that work, don't you? A back that bends. That's all you need to start. Why would you do this? You don't even know me, Kate shrugged. Maybe I see something in you. Maybe I remember what it's like to have nothing. Maybe I just hate seeing people give up when they've got more fight left in them. Does it matter? But I can't pay you. I don't have anything. Work is payment. You help me run the ranch. You and your girl get a place to live. 3 months trial. After that, we see if it's working for both of us. If it's not, no hard feelings. If it is, we figure out something more permanent. Rebecca looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. She thought about the car, about another night in a parking lot, about another day of having no answers. Then she looked back at Kate, at this stranger offering her something nobody else would. A chance, okay, she said quietly. Okay, we'll try. Kate nodded like it was settled. Good, finish that coffee. We've got a drive ahead of us. Your car, follow mine. And Rebecca? Whatever happened before, that's done. Tomorrow you start over. Out on the ranch, you're only as good as the work you do today. Yesterday doesn't matter out there. As they walked out of the diner into the fading evening light, Rebecca felt something she hadn't felt in months. It wasn't quite hope. Not yet, but it was close. It was possibility. And right then, that was enough. The ranch appeared as the sun was setting, painting the Texas sky in shades of orange and pink. Rebecca followed Kate's truck down a long dirt road, dust rising behind them. The land stretched out flat and endless, nothing but grass and fence posts as far as she could see. In the back seat, Lily woke up and pressed her face to the window. "Where are we, Mom?" "Our new home," Rebecca said, trying to sound confident. For a while anyway. The main ranch house came into view first. Single story, white paint peeling in places with a wide porch and rocking chairs that looked like they'd been there forever. Beyond it were several outbuildings, a large barn, and in the distance what looked like hundreds of cattle, grazing in the evening light. Kate pulled up and got out. Rebecca parked beside her and stepped out of the car, her legs stiff from driving. The air smelled different here. Clean. Like grass and earth and something she couldn't name. It was so quiet she could hear birds calling to each other. "That's the main house where I live," Kate said, pointing. "Your place is over there." She led them to a smaller building about 50 yards away. It had probably been white once too, but now was more gray than anything. The porch sagged a little on one side. But when Kate opened the door, Rebecca's breath caught. It was small. One main room that served as kitchen and living area, and 2 small bedrooms off to the side. But it was clean. Someone, probably Kate, had swept and scrubbed. There was a couch that had seen better days but looked comfortable. A small table with 2 chairs. In the kitchen area, a stove and refrigerator that were old but worked. Simple white curtains on the windows. "It's not much," Kate said, "but the roof doesn't leak and the heat works. Bathrooms through there. Water runs hot, usually." Lily ran to explore the bedrooms, her footsteps echoing on the wooden floors. Rebecca stood in the middle of the room, trying not to cry. It wasn't much, but it was more than a car. It was walls and a roof and a door that locked. It was safety. "It's perfect," she said quietly. Kate nodded. "Fridge is stocked with basics. Milk, eggs, bread, some meat. Get settled tonight. Tomorrow morning, 5:30, work starts. I'll come knock on your door." 5:30 in the morning? Kate almost smiled. Cattle don't care if you're tired. They eat when they eat. You'll get used to it. That night, Rebecca tucked Lily into an actual bed for the first time in almost a week. Her daughter fell asleep almost immediately, curled up under clean sheets that smelled like sunshine. Rebecca sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, just watching her breathe. When she finally went to her own room, she lay down and stared at the ceiling. She'd made a crazy decision, followed a stranger to the middle of nowhere. She knew nothing about ranching, nothing about this life. What if she couldn't do it? What if she failed again? But the bed was soft. The room was warm. And for the first time in months, Lily was sleeping peacefully. Tomorrow's problems could wait until tomorrow. The knock on the door came exactly at 5:30. Rebecca had been awake for an hour, too nervous to sleep longer. She opened the door to find Kate standing there with 2 cups of coffee and a young man beside her. "This is Diego," Kate said. "He helps out around here. Does most of the mechanical work and handles the heavy lifting." Diego was maybe 30, with friendly eyes and calloused hands like Kate's. He tipped his hat. "Morning, ma'am. Welcome to the ranch. Diego's going to show you the basics today," Kate continued. "How to feed the cattle, check water troughs, that kind of thing. Tomorrow we'll move on to fence work." The first day was brutal. Rebecca had thought she understood what hard work meant from her waitressing and cleaning jobs. She was wrong. Ranch work was different. It was constant, physical, and unforgiving. Diego showed her how to load hay bales onto the back of a truck. Each bale weighed about 50 pounds. Her arms shook after the third one. He showed her how to spread feed for the cattle, how to check the water systems, how to spot a sick animal in a herd. He explained all of this patiently while Rebecca tried to absorb information through a fog of exhaustion. By noon, her entire body hurt. Her hands were already blistering. Her back ached. She wanted to quit. But then she thought about Lily, safely at the main house with Kate, probably having lunch. She thought about the little house that was waiting for them. She thought about having nowhere else to go. She kept working. Kate appeared around 3 in the afternoon, driving up in her truck. She looked at Rebecca, covered in dirt and sweat, and nodded. "You're still here. That's something. Did you think I'd leave? Some people do. First day breaks them." Kate handed her a bottle of water. "You're tougher than you look. I don't feel tough. Tough isn't about how you feel. It's about showing up anyway. Over the next few weeks, Rebecca learned what that meant. She showed up every morning at 5:30, even when her muscles screamed. She learned to handle tools she'd never seen before. How to fix a broken fence post, how to drive a tractor, how to coax a stubborn calf into following its mother. Her hands developed calluses thick enough that the blisters stopped forming. Her back got stronger. The work stopped feeling impossible and started feeling just hard. There's a difference. Lily adjusted too. Kate enrolled her in the local school, a small building where everyone knew everyone. Lily made friends with Diego's daughter, who was in her class. In the afternoons, she helped collect eggs from the chickens Kate kept behind the main house. She learned to be careful around the horses and never run near the cattle. The nightmares stopped. Lily laughed again. Real laughs, not the scared little sounds she'd made in the car. One evening, about 6 weeks in, Rebecca sat on the sagging porch of their little house. She was drinking sweet tea Kate had taught her to make. The sun was setting again, turning everything golden. Her body ached, the good kind of ache that comes from a day's honest work. Kate walked over and sat down on the steps without asking. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "You thought about what happens after 3 months?" Kate asked finally. Rebecca had been dreading this conversation. "I was hoping we could stay longer, if you'll have us. The work doesn't bother you? It's not the life you're used to." "The life I'm used to wasn't really mine. It belonged to someone else's family, someone else's expectations. This?" She gestured at the ranch, the endless sky, the simple house behind them. "This is hard, but it's real. And it's mine because I earn it every day." Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Good answer. You can stay, but we need to talk about making this official. Can't keep paying you in just room and board. You've earned wages. I don't need much. What we have is enough, maybe. But your girl is growing. She'll need things. New clothes, school supplies, eventually braces probably. Kids are expensive. Trust me, I raised 2 of them." Rebecca hadn't thought about any of that. She'd been so focused on just surviving each day that she forgot about planning for the future. But Kate was right. Lily would need things, and Rebecca wanted to be able to provide them without charity. "What did you have in mind?" she asked. "Partnership eventually. You're not just hired help anymore. You're learning the business. In a year or so, if you're still here and still willing, we split things. 60-40 to start since it's my land and stock. But you'd have a real stake in this place. Something that can't be taken away." Rebecca's throat tightened. "Kate, that's too much. It's practical. I'm getting older. I need someone I can trust to help run this place. You've proven you're not afraid of work. More importantly, you're not afraid of failing and trying anyway. That's rarer than you'd think. Why me, though? You could find someone with actual experience." Kate looked out at the darkening sky. "My husband used to say the best ranch hands weren't the ones who knew everything. They were the ones who showed up broken and built themselves back into something stronger. You remind me of myself 30 years ago, except I was lucky enough to have someone give me a chance. Figured it was time to pass that along." They sat until the stars came out. Lily appeared in the doorway asking if it was bedtime yet. Rebecca called her over and they sat together on the porch, the 3 of them watching the night settle over the ranch. For the first time since Michael died, Rebecca thought about the future. Not with fear, but with something like hope. The Garrisons had tried to destroy her. They'd taken everything they could. But they couldn't take this. They couldn't touch what she was building here with her own 2 hands, and that felt like winning. 6 months on the ranch changed Rebecca in ways she never expected. Her reflection in the mirror showed someone she barely recognized. Her skin was tan from working outdoors. Her arms had muscle definition she'd never had before. The soft, uncertain woman who'd arrived in a beat-up car had been replaced by someone who looked like she belonged here. But the biggest changes weren't physical. Rebecca had discovered something about herself. She was capable of more than she'd ever imagined. Every fence she fixed, every early morning she conquered, every problem she solved, it all built up inside her like armor. The woman who'd once been terrified of asking for help could now handle a ranch emergency without breaking a sweat. Winter came hard that year. The first real cold snap hit in January, dropping temperatures below freezing for a week straight. Kate woke her at 4 in the morning instead of 5:30. "Pipes might freeze," Kate said at her door, breath misting in the cold air. "We need to check all the water troughs and keep them from icing over. It's going to be a long day." They worked in darkness, breaking ice with metal bars, ensuring the cattle had access to water. Rebecca's fingers went numb inside her gloves. Her face felt like it might crack from the cold. But she kept working because the animals needed her to. Because this was her job now. Because she could. Diego showed up around sunrise with thermoses of hot coffee. "Storm's coming tonight," he said, pointing at the gray clouds gathering on the horizon. "Big one." They spent the day preparing, moving the more vulnerable cattle to sheltered areas, securing anything that might blow away, checking that all the buildings were properly closed up. By the time the storm hit that evening, they were as ready as they could be. Rebecca sat in their little house with Lily, listening to the wind howl. It sounded angry, violent, like it wanted to tear the world apart. The house shook. The windows rattled. Lily pressed close to her mother, scared. "It's okay," Rebecca said, holding her daughter tight. "The house is strong. We're safe." Around midnight, Kate knocked on their door. She stood there in the wind, holding a flashlight. "Power's out. Main house lost heat. You got space for a guest?" They huddled together in the living room, wrapped in blankets. Kate showed Lily how to play an old card game by flashlight. The wind screamed outside, but inside they were warm. 3 people who'd started as strangers. Now something more. Family, maybe. Or close enough. The storm passed by morning. They went out to assess the damage. A section of fence was down. Some roof shingles had blown off one of the barns. One of the older trees had fallen, missing the chicken coop by just a few feet. It could have been worse. They spent the next week fixing everything. Rebecca worked alongside Kate and Diego, her hands sure now with tools she'd once been afraid to touch. When they finished the last repair, Kate clapped her on the shoulder. "You've come a long way," she said. "Remember your first day? You could barely lift a hay bale." Rebecca laughed. "Don't remind me. I thought I was going to die. But you didn't. You got stronger instead. That's the thing about this life. It doesn't get easier. You just get tougher." Spring brought new challenges. Calving season meant long nights checking on pregnant cows, helping with difficult births, making sure newborn calves survived their first vulnerable days. Rebecca learned to sleep in short bursts, always ready for Kate's call that another cow was in labor. One night she helped deliver twins. The first calf came easily, but the second was stuck. Kate talked her through it, her voice calm and steady. Rebecca pushed past her fear and her exhaustion and did what needed doing. When the second calf finally came free and took its first shaky breath, she felt something surge in her chest. Pride, accomplishment, power. "Good work," Kate said quietly. "Not everyone can do what you just did." Lily was thriving too. She'd shot up 2 inches and needed new clothes. Her teacher called to say she was at the top of her class. She had friends now, real friends who came over to play and help with chores. She rode horses, collected eggs, helped bottle feed the orphaned calves. She was becoming a ranch kid, comfortable in a world Rebecca had never known existed. One Saturday afternoon, Rebecca took Lily into town for new shoes. They were walking down Main Street when she saw a familiar car. Expensive, black. The kind that didn't belong in a town like this. Her heart stopped. Through the window of a coffee shop, she saw him, Thomas, Michael's brother. He was sitting at a table, looking at his phone. And worse, sitting across from him was Patricia. Rebecca's first instinct was to run, to grab Lily and disappear before they saw her. But something stopped her. Why should she run? She wasn't doing anything wrong. She wasn't the one who'd abandoned family. They were. She stood there frozen, deciding. Then Thomas looked up. Their eyes met through the window. His face registered shock, then something else. Guilt, maybe. He said something to Patricia, who turned to look. Her expression went from surprise to cold disdain in seconds. Thomas stood up and walked outside. Patricia followed, her expensive heels clicking on the sidewalk. "Rebecca," Thomas said, "I didn't expect to see you here. I live here now. We live here." She put her hand on Lily's shoulder. Patricia looked at her outfit. Worn jeans, work boots, flannel shirt with a tear in the sleeve she hadn't gotten around to fixing. She could practically hear Patricia's thoughts. "This is what's become of her? How far she's fallen, Grandma," Lily said uncertainly. She barely remembered Patricia now. 6 months was a long time in a child's life. Patricia's expression softened slightly when she looked at Lily. "Hello, dear. You've grown." "We're staying at a ranch," Lily said proudly. "I have a horse named Buttercup and I collect eggs and help with the baby cows. It's really fun." That's nice, Patricia said in a tone that suggested it wasn't nice at all. She looked back at Rebecca. We're actually in town to see you. We were going to drive out to wherever you're staying. Why? Rebecca asked bluntly. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we could talk somewhere private. No, whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Patricia's lips thinned. Fine, we've been discussing Lily's future. Her education, her opportunities. Living on a ranch is fine for a temporary situation, but she needs proper schooling, stability, the kind of life she deserves. Rebecca felt ice in her veins. She has stability. She has a home. She's happy. For now, Patricia said. But what happens when this arrangement falls apart? When you can't keep up with the work? When your employer realizes you're not qualified for this life, Lily will be the one who suffers. That's not going to happen. You can't guarantee that, but we can. Thomas and his wife have a lovely home. Excellent schools in their district. Lily would have everything she needs. A real future, Rebecca understood now. You want to take her from me. We want what's best for our granddaughter, Patricia said. Surely you can see that this life isn't appropriate for a child. Manual labor, isolation. She should be around people of her own background. Something in Rebecca snapped. All the fear, all the uncertainty she'd been carrying for months, it just burned away. In its place was something harder, anger and certainty. No, she said clearly. Lily is my daughter. She's happy. She's healthy. She's doing better in school than she ever did before, and most importantly, she's loved. Not because of what she can do for anyone or what family she belongs to, but because she's herself. That's something you people never understood. Now see here, Patricia started. I'm not finished. You had your chance to be family. You chose not to be. You cut us off when we needed you most. So you don't get to show up now and pretend you care. You don't get to judge how I'm raising my daughter. And you definitely don't get to take her from me. Thomas looked uncomfortable. Rebecca, we're just concerned. You have to understand. No, I don't. I don't have to understand anything about you anymore. I used to think I needed your approval, your acceptance. I wasted 8 years trying to be good enough for your family. But I'm done with that. I found something better. Better? Patricia laughed. Living in poverty on someone else's property is better? I'm not living in poverty. I'm working, building something real. And I'm teaching my daughter that strength comes from what you do, not what you have. You can take your concern and your judgment and leave. We don't need either one. She took Lily's hand and started to walk away. Thomas called after her. Rebecca, wait. We're worried about Lily's well-being. If you're struggling, we can help. Rebecca turned back. I'm not struggling. Not anymore. I was struggling when you abandoned us. But I found my way. Without any of you. So take your help and go back to your big houses and your fake concern. We're done here. She walked away without looking back. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking, but she felt stronger than she ever had. She'd stood up to them, and it felt amazing. That evening, she told Kate what had happened. Kate listened quietly, her expression getting darker. They threatened to take Lily? Kate asked, not directly, but that's what they meant. Kate was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up. Come with me to the main house. We need to make some calls. Calls to who? A lawyer, I know. Because if they're planning what I think they're planning, we need to be ready. And Rebecca, you're not alone in this. Not anymore. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Rebecca knew what it was before she even opened it. Official letterhead. Legal language. The words blurred together, but the meaning was crystal clear. The Garrison family was petitioning for custody of Lily on the grounds that Rebecca was unable to provide proper care. She sat on the porch steps, the papers shaking in her hands. They'd actually done it. They were trying to take her daughter. Kate found her there an hour later, still staring at the papers. Without a word, Kate took them and read through everything. Her jaw got tighter with each page. They're claiming you're unfit, Kate said flatly. Unstable employment history. Inadequate housing. Exposing Lily to dangerous working conditions. She looked up. It's all lies, is it though? Rebecca's voice was hollow. I did lose my jobs. We did live in a car. And Lily does help with ranch work sometimes. Stop that. Stop doubting yourself. That's what they want. They're twisting the truth to make you look bad. Kate sat down beside her. The lawyer I called? His name is James Rivera. He handles cases like this. He's good, and he owes me a favor. I can't afford a lawyer. You're not listening. He owes me. My husband left him this ranch in his will before we got married. But James couldn't handle it alone. We bought it from him fair and square, but for less than it was worth. He's always said if I needed legal help, he'd be there. This is what he meant. 2 days later, they met James in his small office in town. He was younger than Rebecca expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He read through the Garrison petition carefully while they waited. Okay, he said finally. Here's what they're doing. They're arguing that your current situation is unstable and potentially harmful to Lily. They're painting a picture of someone who's barely hanging on, jumping from place to place, unable to provide proper care. But that's not true, Rebecca protested. Not anymore. I have a job, a home. Lily's doing great in school, I know. And that's what we'll prove. We need to show the judge that you've turned your life around, that you're providing a stable, loving home, that Lily is thriving. He pulled out a notepad. Tell me about your job. Be specific. Hours, wages, responsibilities. Rebecca explained everything. How she started knowing nothing and learned on the job. How she was now essential to running the ranch. How Kate was making her a partner. As she talked, she realized how much she'd accomplished in just over 6 months. James took notes. Good, what about Lily? How is she doing? She's at the top of her class. Her teacher says she's never seen a kid improve so much so fast. She has friends. She's happy. Better and better. We'll get statements from her teacher, her friends' parents, anyone who can speak to her well-being. He looked at Kate. And you'll testify about Rebecca's work ethic and character? Absolutely. And so will Diego. He's worked with her every day. He can speak to how capable she is. James nodded. Here's what's going to happen. There'll be a hearing. The judge will hear both sides. The Garrisons will have expensive lawyers who'll try to make Rebecca look irresponsible. They'll probably bring up living in the car, losing the apartment, the whole history. Rebecca's stomach dropped. So they're going to win. Not necessarily. Judges care about one thing in custody cases. What's best for the child? Right now, by all accounts, what's best for Lily is staying with her mother. We just need to prove that. Over the next few weeks, they built their case. James collected statements from Lily's teacher, who praised her academic improvement and social development. From the school counselor, who noted that Lily seemed well-adjusted and happy. From Diego, who testified about Rebecca's dedication and hard work. From neighbors who'd seen how the two of them supported each other. But the Garrisons weren't idle. They hired investigators who took pictures of the small house Rebecca and Lily lived in. They documented every peeling paint chip and sagging board. They interviewed people in town, asking leading questions about whether a ranch was an appropriate place for a child. One investigator even showed up at Lily's school, trying to interview her without permission. The principal shut that down immediately and called Rebecca. But the attempt terrified her. They were serious about this. The night before the hearing, Rebecca couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about losing Lily, about her daughter growing up in some mansion with Thomas and Patricia, learning to judge people the way they did, forgetting this life they'd built together. Around midnight, she gave up on sleep and went to sit on the porch. She was surprised to find Kate already there, sitting in one of the old rocking chairs. Can't sleep either, Kate asked. Rebecca sat down. What if they win? What if the judge decides they can give her more? They can't give her more. Money isn't more. A big house isn't more. You know what's more? Love, security. Knowing your parent will fight for you. Kate rocked slowly. I watched you transform yourself. You came here broken, and you put yourself back together. That's not nothing. That's everything. But what if it's not enough? Then we'll appeal. We'll fight until there's nothing left to fight with. But Rebecca, I don't think it'll come to that. Tomorrow, when you stand in front of that judge, you tell the truth. You tell them who you are now. Not who you were 6 months ago. Now. The courthouse was smaller than Rebecca expected. They arrived early, James meeting them in the lobby. He'd worn his best suit. Kate had too, looking uncomfortable but determined. Diego was there as well, cleaned up and nervous. Then the Garrisons arrived. Patricia in an expensive dress, Thomas in a tailored suit, and 3 lawyers, all carrying briefcases that probably cost more than Rebecca's car. Patricia's eyes swept over Rebecca with barely concealed contempt. The unspoken message was clear. You can't win this. Look at us and look at you. But Rebecca stood straighter. She'd faced down winter storms and difficult births and her own fear. She could face this too. The courtroom was plain. Wooden benches. A judge's bench at the front. An American flag in the corner. The judge was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back in a bun. She looked like she'd heard every story and believed none of them until proven. The Garrison lawyers went first. They painted a picture of Rebecca as unstable and irresponsible. They brought up every failure, every loss, every mistake. They made living in the car sound like child endangerment. They made the ranch sound like a dangerous work camp. They showed pictures of the small house, emphasizing its age and wear. Then one of their lawyers stood up with a knowing smile. "Your Honor, we'd like to call Rebecca Chen to the stand." James objected. "It's not the petitioner's case yet. They can't call witnesses from our side during their presentation." The judge considered. Overruled. "I'll allow it. This is a custody hearing, not a criminal trial. I want to hear from the mother." Rebecca stood on shaking legs and walked to the witness stand. She swore to tell the truth and sat down, very aware of everyone watching her. The Garrison lawyer approached. He had the kind of smile that wasn't really a smile. "Miss Chen, is it true that you were evicted from your apartment?" "Yes." "And that you and your daughter lived in your car for several days?" "Yes." "And you lost 2 jobs in a short period?" "Yes, but just yes or no, please." He smiled again. "Would you say you have a history of instability?" James stood up. "Objection. That calls for a conclusion." "Sustained," the judge said. "Rephrase," the lawyer nodded. "Let me ask differently. In the past year, how many different addresses have you had?" Rebecca counted. "The house with Michael. The apartment. The car, the ranch. 4. 4 addresses in 1 year. And your daughter changed schools during this time?" "Yes, but she's doing better now than—" "Thank you. Now you currently work on a cattle ranch, correct?" "Yes." "And your daughter helps with this work?" "Sometimes. With small tasks that are safe." "Does she handle livestock?" "She helps feed the chickens and collects eggs." "What about the cattle? Have you exposed her to large animals?" "She's learning to be careful around them, but she's never—" "So yes, she's been around cattle. Animals that weigh over 1,000 pounds and could easily injure a child." James stood again. "Your Honor, he's mischaracterizing—" "I'll allow it," the judge said. "But get to your point, counselor." The lawyer turned back to Rebecca. "Ms. Chen, can you honestly say that living on a ranch doing manual labor is what's best for your daughter? Wouldn't she be better off in a stable home with proper supervision and educational opportunities?" Rebecca looked at him, then at Patricia and Thomas, then at Kate and Diego sitting in the back, finally at James, who gave her a small nod. "Can I answer more than yes or no?" she asked the judge. The judge leaned forward slightly. "I'd like to hear what you have to say." Rebecca took a breath. 6 months ago, I was broken. My husband died. His family abandoned us. I lost everything. And yes, I made mistakes. I should have been better prepared. I should have had savings. I should have had a plan. But I didn't. And when I hit bottom, I had 2 choices. Give up or keep fighting. The lawyer tried to interrupt. "Your Honor." "Let her finish," the judge said quietly. Rebecca continued. "I chose to keep fighting. Not for me, for my daughter. Because she deserved a mother who didn't quit. Kate gave us a chance when no one else would. And I took it. I worked harder than I've ever worked. I learned things I never thought I could learn. I became someone—" After Rebecca stepped down, James began presenting their case. He called Kate to the stand first. She walked up with the same steady confidence she brought to everything, settling into the witness chair like she was sitting on her own porch. James kept his questions simple and direct. "How long has Rebecca worked for you?" 7 months now. Started last fall. Can you describe her work ethic?" Kate turned slightly to address the judge directly. "She shows up every day, 5:30 in the morning, no matter what. Rain, shine, or freezing cold, she does whatever needs doing without complaining. Started knowing nothing about ranch work, and now I trust her to handle things when I'm not there. That's rare. Has she ever put her daughter in danger? Never. Rebecca's careful. Lily helps with small chores, same as any ranch kid does. Builds character and teaches responsibility. Nothing wrong with that. What about their living situation?" Kate's expression hardened. "The house is small, but it's solid and clean. They have everything they need. I've been in mansions that had less love in them than that little house does. The Garrison lawyer stood for cross-examination. Ms. Brennan, you're not a licensed child care professional, are you? No, I'm a rancher. So you're not qualified to assess whether a child is being properly cared for? Kate gave him a look that could freeze water. I raised 2 kids of my own. Both turned out fine. Both still call me every week. I know what good parenting looks like, and Rebecca is a good parent. But objectively, wouldn't you agree that a child deserves better than a cramped house on a working ranch? Objectively, Kate said slowly, I'd say a child deserves a parent who loves them and shows them how to be strong. Rebecca does both. Size of the house has nothing to do with it. Next came Diego. He was nervous on the stand, but James walked him through it carefully. Diego described working alongside Rebecca, watching her learn and grow. He talked about Lily playing with his own daughter, the 2 of them laughing while they collected eggs. My daughter loves having Lily around, Diego said. They're good kids. Happy kids. That's what matters, isn't it? Lily's teacher, Mrs. Henderson, provided the most powerful testimony. She'd been teaching for 30 years and had seen it all. She looked at the Garrison lawyers with barely concealed impatience when they questioned her credentials. Let me be clear, Mrs. Henderson said firmly. When Lily first came to my class, she was struggling, quiet, withdrawn, behind in her reading. I was worried about her. But over these past months, she's completely transformed. She's engaged, confident, and her academic performance has improved dramatically. She went from barely passing to the top of her class. Couldn't that improvement have happened regardless of where she lived? The Garrison lawyer asked. No, Mrs. Henderson said flatly. I've been doing this long enough to know when a child is thriving and when they're not. Lily is thriving. She talks about the ranch, about helping her mother, about learning new things. She's proud of her life. That pride shows in everything she does. You don't get that from just changing schools. You get that from having stability and love at home. The judge asked her own question. In your professional opinion, is Lily being well cared for? Absolutely. She's one of the best cared for children in my class. Her homework is always done. She's clean, well-fed, and happy. If every child I taught had a parent as dedicated as Rebecca, my job would be a lot easier. Then it was the Garrison side's turn to present their case. They called experts who'd never met Rebecca or Lily, but spoke about ideal living conditions for children. They showed financial statements proving they could provide private schools, tutors, music lessons, everything money could buy. Thomas took the stand, looking uncomfortable but determined. I failed my niece once, he said quietly. When my brother died, we should have supported Rebecca. We didn't, that was wrong. But we want to make it right now. We want to give Lily the life she deserves. James stood for cross-examination. Mr. Garrison, when did you last see your niece before the incident in town 3 weeks ago? Thomas shifted. At the funeral? About 8 months ago. 8 months. And in that time, did you call to check on her? No. Send birthday presents? Cards? Any communication at all? No, but... So your sudden interest in Lily's welfare began exactly when you discovered she was living on a ranch and not in poverty as you'd assumed? That's not fair. We didn't know where they were. You have investigators now. You could have had them 8 months ago. Why didn't you look for Lily then when she actually needed help? Thomas had no answer. He stepped down looking defeated. Finally, Patricia took the stand. She sat with perfect posture, hands folded every inch the wealthy matriarch. She spoke about duty and responsibility and giving Lily proper advantages. When James cross-examined her, he pulled out a folder. Mrs. Garrison, is it true that you told Rebecca she was no longer family 2 weeks after your son's funeral? I may have said something in the heat of grief. Did you or did you not tell her she had 60 days to vacate the house? Patricia's lips thinned. The house was family property. It had to return to the trust. Even though your granddaughter was living there, even though she'd just lost her father, the trust has rules. And those rules were more important than your 6-year-old granddaughter's stability. James let that hang in the air. Mrs. Garrison, how many times have you called Lily since your son died? We've been busy. 0 times. You haven't called once. Not on her birthday. Not on Christmas. Not at all. Yet now you claim to want custody because you care about her welfare. We do care. If you cared, you would have been there 8 months ago. But you weren't, Rebecca was. And she's been there every day since, working herself to exhaustion to give Lily a good life. So forgive me if I question whether this is really about Lily's welfare, or about something else entirely. What are you implying? Patricia's composure cracked slightly. I'm implying that this petition has less to do with caring for a child and more to do with control, with not accepting that Rebecca succeeded without your help, with not liking that your granddaughter is happy in a life you don't approve of. Patricia had no response to that. The courtroom felt heavy with tension. The judge called for a recess. Rebecca went outside with Kate and James, her legs shaking. How do you think it's going? She asked. James considered. Hard to say. Judge is tough to read, but I think we made our points. The question is whether she values stability in the form of money and status, or stability in the form of love and consistency. What if she chooses money? Then we appeal. But Rebecca, you did everything right. You told the truth. You showed who you are. That's all we can do. When they reconvened, the judge spent several minutes reviewing her notes. The silence stretched unbearably. Rebecca felt like she might be sick. Finally, the judge looked up. I'm going to be honest. This case troubled me from the start. On paper, the Garrison family can offer material advantages that Ms. Chen cannot match. Better housing, financial security, educational opportunities. Rebecca's heart sank. This was it. She was going to lose. However, the judge continued, custody decisions aren't made on paper. They're made based on the best interests of the child. And in this case, those interests are clear. She looked directly at Patricia. Mrs. Garrison, your concern for your granddaughter appears to have conveniently emerged only after she was no longer in need. When she was homeless and vulnerable, you did nothing. Now that she's thriving, you want custody. I find that timing suspect. Then she turned to Rebecca. Ms. Chen, you've been through significant hardship. Some of that hardship was due to poor planning on your part. Some was due to circumstances beyond your control. But what matters is how you responded. You didn't give up. You didn't take the easy path. You worked hard and rebuilt your life. More importantly, your daughter is flourishing under your care. Her teacher's testimony alone would be enough to convince me. But everything I've heard today supports the same conclusion. The judge straightened her papers. Lily is happy, healthy, and thriving. She has a stable home with a mother who loves her and has proven she'll do whatever it takes to provide for her. That is what children need. Not money, not a big house, but love and dedication. Rebecca couldn't breathe. Was this really happening? Therefore, the judge said clearly, the petition for custody is denied. Lily will remain with her mother. Furthermore, I'm ordering that any future custody petitions from the Garrison family be subject to strict scrutiny, given the timing and motivation of this one. The gavel came down. It was over. Rebecca couldn't move at first. Then Kate grabbed her hand and squeezed hard. James was smiling. Diego pumped his fist in the air from the back row. And Patricia stood up, her face pale with fury, and walked out without a word. Thomas lingered, looking like he wanted to say something, but in the end he just followed his mother. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca finally let herself cry. Not sad tears, relief, joy, victory. Kate hugged her tight while Diego whooped and called his wife with the news. You did it, Kate said quietly. You beat them. We did it, Rebecca corrected. I couldn't have done this alone. James packed up his briefcase. The court will send official paperwork in a few days. But it's done. Lily stays with you. They can't try this again without showing significant change in circumstances. 2 weeks after the court ruling, life had settled back into its comfortable rhythm. Rebecca woke before dawn, worked the ranch alongside Kate and Diego, and came home to Lily every evening. The legal papers had arrived, making everything official. Lily was staying with her. The threat was over, or so she thought. The truck appeared on a Saturday morning. Not Patricia's sleek vehicle, but something more modest. Thomas got out alone, no lawyers, no mother. He stood by his truck for a long moment, looking at the ranch like he was gathering courage. Rebecca was fixing a fence post near the main road when she saw him. Her first instinct was to walk away, pretend she hadn't noticed. But she was done running from these people. She set down her tools and waited. Thomas approached slowly. He looked tired, older than she remembered. Rebecca, thank you for not calling the police. I know I'm probably not welcome here. You're not. He nodded like he expected that. I understand. But I needed to talk to you. Away from my mother. Away from everyone, just as Michael's brother. As someone who should have done better. Rebecca crossed her arms. If you're here to try again for custody, I'm not. I swear the court made its decision. It was the right one. I know that now. He looked down at his expensive shoes, dusty from the ranch dirt. Can we talk, please? 5 minutes? Then I'll leave and never bother you again. Against her better judgment, Rebecca gestured to a nearby fence rail. They both sat an awkward distance apart. Thomas seemed unsure how to start. I've been doing a lot of thinking since the hearing, he finally said. About Michael. About you. About how we treated you. He rubbed his face. I was a coward. I watched my mother tear you down for 8 years and I never said a word. I told myself it wasn't my business, that you seemed fine. But you weren't fine, were you? Rebecca didn't answer. She wasn't going to make this easy for him. When Michael died, I should have stood up for you. You were my sister-in-law. You just lost your husband. And Lily lost her father. But I let Mom push you out. I convinced myself she was just grieving. That she'd come around. That it wasn't as bad as it seemed. He looked at her. I was wrong. It was exactly as bad as it seemed. Why are you telling me this now? Because the hearing opened my eyes. Sitting there, listening to your teacher talk about how Lily was struggling before and thriving now. Hearing that judge point out that we did nothing when you actually needed help. It made me face what I'd been avoiding. We failed you. I failed you. And I'm sorry. Rebecca studied him. He seemed genuine. But then again, these people were good at seeming genuine when they wanted something. What do you want, Thomas? Forgiveness? Absolution. Because I'm not in the business of making you feel better about yourself. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'm trying to make amends in the only way I know how. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is for Lily, a trust fund. Completely separate from the family trust. Only you control it. It can't be touched by my mother or anyone else. It's for her education, college, trade school, whatever she wants to do. Rebecca stared at the envelope like it might bite her. I don't want your money. It's not for you. It's for Lily. It's the one thing I can do to help. Michael would have wanted her to have opportunities. I can't bring him back. I can't undo the past. But I can do this, please. Let me do this one thing right. Rebecca took the envelope slowly. Inside were legal documents and a bank statement. The amount made her breath catch. It was enough to send Lily to any school in the country. Multiple times over. This is too much. It's what Michael's share of the family business is worth. Or would have been, if things had been different. It should be Lily's, and yours really. You earned it. Putting up with our family for 8 years. He stood up. There are no strings attached. No conditions. You never have to see me again if you don't want to. I just needed to try to make this right. He started walking back to his truck. Rebecca called after him. Thomas? He turned. Does Patricia know about this? No, and she'll be furious when she finds out. But I'm done letting her make all the decisions. I'm done being a coward, he smiled sadly. I watched you stand up to her in that courtroom. The way you spoke. The strength in your voice. It made me ashamed. You're braver than I ever was. It's easy to be brave when you have nothing left to lose. Maybe. Or maybe you were always brave and just didn't know it yet. He climbed into his truck. Take care of yourself, Rebecca. And take care of Lily. She's lucky to have you. He drove away, leaving Rebecca holding an envelope that changed everything and nothing. The money was real. The opportunity was real. But it didn't change what had happened. Didn't erase the months of struggling and suffering. She walked back to the house where Kate was waiting on the porch. What did he want? Rebecca handed her the envelope. Kate read through the documents, her eyebrows rising. Well, that's unexpected. Should I take it? Or is it just another way to control us? Kate handed it back. You read the fine print. You control it, not them. It's not a gift. It's restitution. There's a difference, she paused. But it's your call. You don't need their money. You're making your own way. But Lily does need it. Or will someday. College isn't cheap. And she's smart. Really smart. She could go anywhere, do anything. Then there's your answer. That evening, Rebecca sat down with Lily at their small kitchen table. Honey, I need to talk to you about something. Lily looked up from her homework, concerned. Are we in trouble again? No, nothing like that. Remember Uncle Thomas? The one from court? Yes, he came by today. He set up a special savings account for you. For when you're older. For college or whatever you want to do. Lily considered this. Does that mean he's not mad at us anymore? I don't think he was ever mad, just confused, and not very brave. But he's trying to do better now. Are we going to go back to living with them? No, never. This is our home. That doesn't change. Rebecca took her daughter's hand. But we can accept help without losing ourselves. Your dad would have wanted you to have opportunities. So we're going to take this money and save it for your future. Okay? Lily nodded. Then she asked the question that Rebecca had been dreading. Do you think Daddy would be proud of us? Of how we live now? Rebecca's throat tightened. I think he'd be surprised. But yes, I think he'd be proud. Especially of you. You've been so strong through all of this. I learned from you, Mom. You never gave up, even when things were really bad. They sat together for a while, mother and daughter, in their small house that was worth more than any mansion because it was truly theirs. Outside, the ranch stretched into the evening, cattle lowing in the distance, the land they worked and loved. A few days later, Rebecca went to town and met with a financial advisor. She set up the trust exactly as Thomas had intended, locked tight so only she could access it for Lily's benefit. She didn't tell Patricia. Didn't feel the need to. This was between her and Thomas, a small attempt at redemption from someone who'd finally found the courage to try. The seasons changed. Spring turned to summer. The ranch work continued, endless and satisfying. Lily turned 7 and had a birthday party with her school friends, all of them running around the ranch like wild things, collecting eggs and petting horses and eating too much cake. Kate pulled Rebecca aside during the party. You've been here a year now. Hard to believe. Feels like longer. In a good way. You thinking about the future? What comes next? I'm thinking about a lot of things. Like maybe building an addition to the house. Lily needs more space as she grows. And I was thinking about getting a few more chickens. Maybe even a milk cow, Kate smiled. Sounds like you're putting down roots. Is that okay? More than okay. This is your home now. Make it whatever you want it to be. That night, after everyone had gone home and Lily was asleep, Rebecca walked out to the fence line where she'd first started working a year ago. She looked at her hands in the moonlight. Calloused. Strong. The hands of someone who worked for a living. The hands of someone who built instead of just received. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago. Broken. Desperate. Living in a car with no idea what would come next. That woman would never have believed this was possible. Would never have believed she could be this strong, this capable, this happy. The Garrisons had meant to destroy her by taking everything away. Instead, they'd freed her, forced her to find out who she really was beneath all the expectations and judgments. And who she was, it turned out, was someone worth knowing, someone strong enough to survive anything. She heard footsteps and turned to find Kate walking up. The older woman stood beside her, both of them looking out at the land they worked together. You thinking deep thoughts out here? Kate asked, just realizing something. I spent 8 years trying to be what they wanted. Trying to fit into their world. And I was miserable. Even when everything looked perfect on the outside. Now I have less than I've ever had and I'm happier than I've ever been. Kate nodded slowly. That's because this is real. You earned every bit of it. Nobody can take that away from you. Thomas tried to apologize, to make things right with that trust fund. Part of me wants to stay angry. But another part thinks maybe people can change. Maybe it's not too late for him to be better. Maybe. But that's his journey, not yours. You focus on your own path. You've done good, Rebecca. 2 years changed everything. The small house had a new porch that didn't sag, fresh paint, and an addition that gave Lily her own real bedroom. The ranch itself had grown too. More cattle, better equipment, and a reputation for quality that brought buyers from 3 counties away. Rebecca stood in the main barn, checking inventory on a tablet that still felt strange in her work-roughened hands. She was wearing jeans she'd patched herself in boots that had seen better days but fit like old friends. Her hair was pulled back in a practical braid, streaks of gray starting to show that she didn't bother hiding. She looked like she belonged here because she did. Mom. Lily's voice echoed through the barn. She came running in, now 9 years old and all legs, her school backpack bouncing. Mrs. Henderson said I got the highest score on the state test. In the whole school. Rebecca scooped her daughter into a hug. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. She says I should think about the gifted program. It means extra work but also special projects and stuff. Lily's face was bright with excitement. Can I do it? Of course you can. You can do anything you set your mind to. Kate appeared in the barn doorway. Heard the good news. Figured we should celebrate. Diego's wife is bringing over dinner tonight. The whole family. It had become a tradition celebrating the good moments together, because they were a family now. This odd collection of people who'd found each other. Kate and Diego's family and Rebecca and Lily. Not related by blood, but by something stronger. By choice and loyalty and shared struggles. That evening they gathered at the main house. Diego's wife Rosa had made enough food to feed an army. Their daughter Maya and Lily were already best friends, inseparable since that first day 2 years ago. They sat together, whispering and giggling about whatever 9-year-old girls whisper about. After dinner, while the kids played outside in the fading light, the adults sat on Kate's porch. Diego was telling a story about a stubborn bull when a car pulled up the drive. Not just any car. The expensive kind that didn't belong on a dusty ranch road. Rebecca tensed, but Kate put a hand on her arm. It's okay. I know who it is. A woman got out of the car looking uncertain. She was younger than Rebecca, maybe mid-20s, dressed too nicely for a ranch visit. She approached the porch slowly. Are you Kate Brennan? She asked nervously. I am. And you're Jennifer, right? From the email? The woman nodded. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I wasn't sure you'd actually want to. Rebecca looked at Kate questioningly. Kate gestured for Jennifer to sit. Jennifer reached out last week. She's in a situation. Thought maybe we could help. Jennifer sat on the porch steps, her expensive shoes looking ridiculous against the worn wood. I don't know where to start. This is all so embarrassing. Start anywhere, Kate said gently. No judgment here, the story spilled out. Jennifer had been married to a wealthy man. When he died suddenly, his family cut her off just like the Garrisons had done to Rebecca. She'd been struggling for months, living with friends, trying to find work with no recent job history. Someone in town had mentioned Kate's ranch, said she sometimes helped women who needed a fresh start. As Jennifer talked, Rebecca saw herself 2 years ago. The fear, the desperation, the shame of having to ask for help. When Jennifer finished, there was silence on the porch. Can you work hard? Kate asked. Physical labor, long days, early mornings? I don't know. I've never tried. But I need to do something. I have a daughter and we're running out of options. Kate looked at Rebecca. What do you think? Rebecca understood then. This wasn't just about Jennifer. This was Kate asking if Rebecca was ready to pay forward what had been given to her. She thought about that day in the gas station, how Kate had seen something in her worth saving, how that one act of kindness had changed everything. How old is your daughter? Rebecca asked Jennifer. 5, her name is Sophie. She's in the car, actually. I didn't know if I should bring her up or bring her up. Let's meet her. Sophie was small and quiet, hiding behind her mother's legs. She reminded Rebecca so much of Lily at that age, scared and unsure. Lily and Maya came over, curious about the new kid. Within minutes, they had Sophie laughing, showing her the chickens. The old foreman's house is empty, Rebecca said to Kate. We could clean it up, make it livable. Kate nodded. Thinking what I'm thinking? That we have room for one more? Yeah, I'm thinking that. Jennifer looked between them, hope dawning on her face. Are you saying? 3-month trial, Rebecca said, using the same words Kate had used with her. Your work will provide housing. If it works out, we talk about something more permanent. It won't be easy. But if you're willing to try, we're willing to give you a chance. Jennifer started crying. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough. Don't thank us yet, Kate said with a slight smile. Wait until after your first week. Then see if you still want to stay. Diego spoke up. I can help fix up the old foreman's house this weekend. Rosa, you still have those extra dishes and blankets in storage? Of course. We'll get them set up properly. Just like that, it was decided. Jennifer and Sophie would join their strange little ranch family. Rebecca showed them the house, apologizing for its current state but seeing past the dust to what it could be. Just like Kate had done for her. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Lily was asleep, Rebecca found Kate sitting on her porch again. It seemed like all their important conversations happened here. You knew what you were doing, didn't you? Rebecca said. When you asked me what I thought about Jennifer. Maybe figured it was time. Time for what? For you to see how far you've come. 2 years ago, you were the one needing help. Now you're the one giving it. That's the circle. You get help when you need it, then you help others when you can. Rebecca sat down beside her. I was thinking about starting something more formal. A program, maybe. For women in situations like mine was. Like Jennifer's. Teach them ranch skills, give them time to get back on their feet. We have the space now. And the knowledge. Kate was quiet for a moment. That's a big undertaking. I know. But it feels right. How many women are out there thinking they have no options? Thinking they're not strong enough to survive? They just need someone to show them they're wrong. You'd be good at that. Better than me, probably. You remember what it felt like? Will you help? I can't do it alone. Kate smiled. Course I'll help. This is what we do. We take broken things and make them strong again. Whether it's cattle or fences or people. Over the next 6 months, they built the program. Started small, with just Jennifer and one other woman Diego knew from church. They learned the same lessons Rebecca had learned. How to work with their hands. How to be self-sufficient. How to find strength they didn't know they had. Word spread. Other women reached out asking if there was room for them. Rebecca and Kate were careful, taking only women they thought were ready to do the work. Not everyone made it through. Some left after a week, unable to handle the early mornings and hard labor, but others stayed and thrived. By the end of Lily's 3rd year on the ranch, they had 5 families living and working there. The ranch had become something more than just a business. It was a community, a place where broken people came to rebuild themselves. Rebecca started getting calls from reporters wanting to write about their program. She mostly said no. This wasn't about publicity, but eventually she agreed to one small article in the local paper. The headline read, "From Homeless to Home, Ranch Program Helps Women Find Strength." Patricia saw the article. Rebecca knew because Thomas called to tell her. "Mom is furious," he said, sounding almost amused. "Says you're making the family look bad. And what do you think?" "I think what you're doing is remarkable. I'm proud to say I know you, even if we're not close. Michael would be proud too." That meant more than Rebecca expected. She'd let go of most of her anger toward the Garrisons, but hearing that Michael would have been proud touched something deep inside. Lily thrived in this environment. She was confident in a way Rebecca never was at her age. She helped new kids settle in, showing them around, teaching them about the animals. She tutored younger children in reading. She was kind but tough, just like the ranch had taught her to be. One evening, Rebecca found Lily sitting on their porch, the same way Rebecca often sat with Kate. "What are you thinking about, honey?" "Just how different our life is from before. Do you ever miss it? The old house, having more money, all that stuff?" Rebecca sat down beside her daughter. "Honestly? No, I thought I would. I thought I'd always miss the comfort and security. But I don't. You know why? Why? Because that life wasn't really mine. I was just borrowing it from someone else's family. This life, though, every bit of it we built ourselves. Nobody can take that away. That's worth more than any fancy house. I'm glad we ended up here," Lily said quietly. "I like who we are now." "Me too, baby. Me too." Years kept passing. Lily grew up surrounded by women who'd survived impossible things and come out stronger. She learned that strength wasn't about never falling down. It was about getting back up every time you did. That lesson shaped her in ways Rebecca couldn't have planned but was grateful for. The ranch program grew slowly but steadily. Not everyone who came stayed, but enough did to make a difference. Some moved on after getting back on their feet.